Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
Epstein's abuse. They are here in the gallery with us this evening. Thank you for being here. Just this morning, House Democrats released more emails showing that Trump knew more about Epstein's abuses than he previously acknowledged. It's past time for Congress to restore its role as a check and balance on this administration and fight for we, the American people. We need to fight for our immigrant communities and veterans. We need to stand up for our public schools, children, and educators. We need to respect tribal sovereignty in our environment. We need to stand up for LGBTQ+ rights, because that's what the American people expect us to do. Fight for them. That is why I will sign the discharge petition right now to release the Epstein files. Justice cannot wait another day. Adelante, mi gente. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. I yield back.
Provide them any help they want. Obviously they don't want us we're not going to take unilateral action or go in and send American forces into Mexico, but we can help them with equipment, with training, with intelligence sharing, with all kinds of things that we could do if they asked for it. They got to ask for it. But look, you asked about one mayor. It's not just, there's been other mayors. There's been journalists. There's been politicians. There's been judges. These cartels are very powerful. One of the things that no one is discussing enough is the rise of these transnational terrorist organizations. And just because they're not ideologically driven does not mean they're not terrorists. You don't have to be ideological to be a terrorist. And they're terrorists because they possess, in many cases, more weapons, better training, better intelligence, and more capabilities than nation states do. In the case of Ecuador, these terrorist organizations are threatening the Ecuadorian state. I mean, planning IDFs and attacking, planning IEDs and attacking the presidential convoy. In Mexico, there are areas of the country that are frankly run by and governed by these cartels are more powerful than local law enforcement or even the national forces are. So these are a concern throughout the hemisphere. In the case of Haiti, the Haitian problem is not with some ideological movement. The Haitian problem is with armed gangs that in many cases are stronger and more capable than the Haitian forces are to be able to stand up against. It's safer in Washington than it is in Damascus right now, so I think that that's part of it. Look, we want to give these guys every chance to succeed. They told us what they want to do is create a national Syrian government in which every element of Syrian society is represented and feels safe. They don't want Syria to ever again be a base of operations for Iran, for ISIS, or for any of these groups. They want it to be a country, not a launching pad for attacks against their neighbors. And so we want to give them every chance to succeed in that regard. The alternative is that if it doesn't work, if this doesn't happen and it collapses, then the alternative is going to be that Syria will fall into civil war and it'll become a playground for virtually every dangerous element in the Middle East, and including a return of Iran. And it'll even strengthen Hezbollah. So we don't want to see that happen. So this is the best option on the table to prevent that from happening.
Venezuela's government saying that it's doing a massive military mobilization in response to what they call a threat from the United States.
Yeah, they don't have a government. There's an illegitimate regime that's basically a narco-trafficking organization that's empowered itself. By the way, many of the countries represented here at the G7 don't recognize the Maduro regime as a legitimate government. So I don't generally respond to what they're saying. Suffice it to say that the problem we have is that the senior leader of that regime, of that illegitimate regime, is also indicted in the United States in the Southern District of New York on drug charges.
Other partners that you have are obviously the European partners. We're sensing The Russian assets is, of course, the main debate that is happening in Europe right now. There's a pattern with European leaders where at first they say no to something, whether it's tanks or some other things, then they go to maybe, then they get to yes.
That's true.
Right now they're on maybe for the Russian assets. Do you think they're going to get to yes, and do you have assurances from European leaders that they will deliver loans on the Russian assets?
We need it very much. This is one of the types of real sanctions. Russia has to pay for this war. They began this war and they have to pay. This is a real fact, how they can pay. And we need this money. We will spend this money on renovation, and of course we need air defense, and we need air defense from the United States, and we have European systems. We need this air defense from European leaders. This is all very important, and of course we need to finance our drone production, which is huge.
I also said we don't need to be in military of beardos anymore. Do you know how many troops claim to be Nordic pagan? No, suddenly it's become like this real fake religious affiliation inside the Pentagon where troops claim to be Nordic pagan so they can grow a beard, and no one challenges them on it because no one's upheld standards for a long time. So now a quarter of the platoon is sporting beards because they're now suddenly Nordic pagans. We're not doing that stuff anymore.
Welcome back to the SCIF. Today is Thursday, the 13th of November. We're moving right along. Thanksgiving will be here before you know it, and then Christmas, the glorious holiday. So we say Christmas around here. So we look forward to that. Hope you got a big family event coming for either holiday, but celebrate the Republic and celebrate your family. That's what we're going to do. The theme of the show today is change and the tipping point. We're at a tipping point politically. I sense it. I think that in many ways the Trump administration is doing a lot of good domestically. We need more of that, but we sense that they're going astray internationally, and we're going to talk about that with Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen. He'll be in the second hour. So we look forward to that. It's a really good interview. We pre-taped it, but I think you'll really enjoy it. It's really insightful, and really I think will give you a wake-up call as to what's happening inside the country with the youth and everyone else. I think Mark is spot on, and so he'll talk about that. I want to say hello to the crew. I think we had like 25 chats before the show even started. We love this. We love what's going on in the chat. You're cleared hot. Keep it going. Thank you very much. Check out whatfinger.com, a great aggregator site. After you check cdm.press 3 times a day, please give us the traffic and all of our other sites. Play around with all the sites. Go to the top link, CDM sites, and check out everything we have to offer. The sites are in different stages of development. We're working on all of them, and we're increasing the content, turning the knob up to 11, if you will, on the content, and hopefully you're enjoying it. In first hour, we're going to have Marwan Abdullah. He's with the Lebanese Kateeb Party, the Christian party, one of the oldest Christian parties in Lebanon, and we're very focused on bringing out the Christian situation in Lebanon. So we're looking forward to Marwan. Referred to me by a very knowledgeable and insightful and connected individual. So I really appreciate that referral. You know who you are. And I think you're going to enjoy Marwan's talk. So today is the 12th, or excuse me, it's the 13th. And this is your mission brief. Pope is to visit Lebanon in the midst of Christian crisis and tension. We're going to dig into that, and you're going to hear us talk about this a lot more. And we're going to have big news coming out of Lebanon soon, but I can't really release that yet. The Chinese Communist Party has, right outside of Whiteman Air Force Base, where they happen to have 19 B-2 bombers, the only ones in the U.S. Air Force inventory. And do you remember that drone attack on the bombers in Russia that just knocked all the third of the strategic air power of the Russian nuclear fleet, bomber fleet, out in a few minutes. So we've allowed a CCP trailer park run by a criminal to have land on the fence of Whiteman Air Force Base. I can't freaking believe this. You know, we have our Pentagon credentials. We're going down to Pentagon Media Week, first week in December. We're going to light up the Pentagon. I mean, we really have to get some adults in charge here. And so we're going to discuss all of that. But you can read this on armedforces.press, CCP and Whiteman Air Force Base, a wake-up call for Whiteman Air Force Base, it's called. Ukrainian corruption revelations, the real story. So there's been revelations in the last 48 hours that $100 million from Zelensky had been laundered of American aid by one of his advisors. You know, we've been talking about this for literally 10 years. So it's no surprise to us. It's much bigger than $100 million. But the interesting fact is that it's coming out in the press. And we have sources on the ground in Kiev that told us that this is from a new agreement with the FBI. So they brought more people in. So we think this is the beginning of the end for Zelensky. It means they're going to start releasing the corruption, and he's in trouble in that regard because they want a new government. They want the war over. At least that's what we hope. Senator Chris Murphy for Minority Leader. We're hearing that on the street, and our Connecticut team, Connecticut Sentinel, spelled with a C, the old Revolutionary Way, is on that story. And then DOJ investigates the mob violence outside of Berkeley at the Turning Point USA event. So, wow, a lot going on. We'll be right back. We've got a great show for you today. Stay with us. We'll be right back on the SCIF.
I'm a naturopathic doctor. We are in the world of medicine very acquainted with many modalities, but probably the one most familiar with everybody would be two things: homeopathy and herbs, maybe some nutrients too, you know, vitamins, minerals, that kind of thing. Now, we do know a lot about the drugs because we have to find out what drug you're taking affects you and what nutrient it depletes you of, because most every drug pharmacy product will deplete something. So we have been trained, and we have a database that we can check into that says this is going to take your B12 away. The pharmaceutical company cannot patent organic substances made by the body. You're not born short of Advil. You know, you're not born short of Ritalin.
Yeah.
You can be born short of insulin, right? Mm-hmm. The answers to staying healthy and keeping away from even SARS or any of those things getting into you is staying healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You and I get sick because our terrain gets out of balance. Well, that's the same thing in the soil. You and I are made from this thing called dirt. And when we get out of balance, we have the same thing happen. Weeds start to grow in our body. Right? And that's what we want in our body. We want nutrients that we don't understand how to get well enough yet because our suppliers are lacking knowledge on nutrient density foods.
So this is what drove you to develop this, was your knowledge of this, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. You know that.
Excited to announce that we're having a huge sale on overstock and brand new products. For example, My Pillow Percale bed sheets, every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. Our Percale bed sheets are breathable, cool and crisp, and they're perfect for spring and summer. And check out Rev 7, the next generation of energy drinks. It tastes great, and it gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. Best of all, it's actually good for you. And for a limited time, try our 3-pack absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88. Twin size, full size, queen size, king sizes, all $29.88. Inventory is extremely limited at this price, so order now.
Welcome back to the SCIF. Thanks for joining us today. I want to talk to you about, real quick, one of our sponsors, MyPillow.com. If you go to MyPillow.com and use promo code CDM, you get the best discounts. But I got to tell you, I love the mattress toppers. If you're looking for a Christmas gift for someone who has everything, I'm sure they don't have one of these, or maybe they do, but this one will knock their socks off, and you'll make them very happy. They'll be very thankful for the great sleep they'll get on the My Pillow mattress toppers. I love mine. I can't wait to get back to it for the great sleep I get. And combined with Nucleo Boost, where I just sleep solid because I've got all the nutrients my body needs. You can go to CDM Nutrition and get the Nucleo Boost. But check out the mattress toppers at mypillow.com, promo code CDM. And speaking of Nucleo Boost, this is the package. This is the capsules. It's literally everything you need at the micro level. This is a great stocking stuffer. Throw that bad boy in the stocking and you get the subscription. It's much cheaper, and you can get it all at cdmnutrition.com. So let's talk some stories real quick. Let me bring this up 1 second. The Pope is going to Lebanon, and he's going in a time of real Christian tension. We've talked a lot about, we have a lot of contacts on the ground in Lebanon now, and it's the first Christian state. It is the Christian state. It is the only Christian state in the Middle East. It's run by a Christian president, and the Christians there are being attacked over and over and over again for decades, from the civil war, the Palestinian problem, from the Syrian invasion, to the 2 million Syrian Sunnis who have come in from the Assad regime collapse, from the bomb that went off in the port, to the color revolution that destroyed their financial system. Someone really doesn't like Christians in the Middle East. So, we don't know much about this Pope, this new one, but we're a fan of him going to Lebanon and bringing attention to this whole thing. And if you scroll down through the article on CDM, you can see some of the stuff we've been putting out. We interviewed Gibran Bassil, who is the leader of the Free Patriotic Movement in the Christian Party in Lebanon, and I was on Steve Bannon on this. So, and then we also interviewed Naji Hayek, who's also with FPM in Beirut. So a lot there, and we're going to stay on this story. And as I said, more news to come out of Lebanon as we go. But we're the axe on the street, as they say, on this story. And we hope that the Pope can bring some more attention to the Christian plight in Lebanon, because everybody's worried about Turkey. They're worried about Israel. No one's talking about, and they're worried about Syria. They're worried about the Kurds. No one's talking about the Christians. So we are. So that's going to be our role, one of our roles going forward. Let's look at this story. This is the Whiteman Air Force Base story, a wake-up call at Whiteman Air Force Base. If we can scroll down, this is by Commander Salamander, fantastic writer. There's the fence line with the trailer park, and Whiteman with 19 B-2 bombers that cost a gazillion apiece. We've only got 19 of them. There are air power, strategic air power, stealth bombing force that can go anywhere in the world. They're the ones that bombed Iran. And guess what? There's a Chinese trailer park next door. And guess what? Are those trailers filled with drones? It can just go up and destroy those in about 30 seconds. Inquiring minds want to know. Really unbelievable, the complete incompetence of our national security people. But we're going to try to shed light on that with our Pentagon Press Pass. And in Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy for Minority Leader. That's what they're suggesting. I tell you, our team in Connecticut tells us that he is communist number one. The whole state of Connecticut is infiltrated by communists, literally card-carrying communists. The guy from Epoch Times, I forget his name now, he did a big story on this. You can find it online. It's about 30, 40 minutes long about all the communist infiltration in Connecticut, literally card-carrying communist members in the government of Connecticut across the board, and a lot of people who sympathize. And it's down to the local level. Chris Murphy's one of those. He's a bad hombre, as Trump said, and they want to put him in as minority leader in the Senate. Not a good idea, but we're going to shine the light on Mr. Murphy as our Connecticut people can. This one is really important. We talked about the corruption in Ukraine. $100 million being disclosed was lifted or grifted, as you want to say, from American aid packages for one of his, I think it was the energy secretary. This is just the tip of the iceberg, my friends. And we're going to see a lot more of this come out. And we hope that someone has made the decision to get rid of Zelensky. And that's why all of this stuff is starting to come out. We've been saying this literally for 10 years. I wrote my first 12 years. I wrote my first article on why we don't need to be involved in Ukraine in 2014 for Zero Hedge. I don't know if it's still there or not, but I said it's not our war. It's not our fight. We don't need to be involved there. It's a corrupt country, and there's no upside for the United States, only downside. And that's exactly what it's brought us. Loss of gazillions in treasure, a lot of dead American mercenaries on the ground over there, and just a possibility of World War III with the largest nuclear power in the world. The Europeans really want the war. You look at Germany, you look at France, you look at the UK, they all want to go to war with Russia. And the new Polish globalist government, Tusk, which I warned about from Warsaw in December 2023, they all want a global war. We don't want a global war. We want to end this conflict. We want the U.S. out of it, and we want to focus on our own borders and our hemispheric security. So you can read about this story. It's not that they discovered 100 million. Everybody knew this. It's that they're starting to disclose these corruption rackets that are going on in Ukraine. So one more story. DOJ launches UC Berkeley investigation of mob violence outside Turning Point USA event. Our Connecticut Sentinel staff is on fire. If you just want great news out of the Northeast and nationally, actually, and on all the DEI and culture wars and communist infiltration across the country, Connecticut Sentinel, that's with a C, Connecticut Sentinel, CENTINAL, spelled the old revolutionary way. We brought back one of the revolutionary papers, and that team is on fire. Their X account is on fire. And I can bring that paper up. Hold on one second. I'll bring that so you can see the link. There we go. ConnecticutSentinel.com. Check it out if you like news from the Northeast and nationally, and really breaking news on what's happening with the fight against this Marxist infiltration. The Connecticut Sentinel is fantastic, so check them out. All right, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to have Marwan Abdullah come in from the Kateeb Party in Lebanon. And then in the second hour, we've got Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen talking about polls. Fantastic interview. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7. I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.
Pandemic, we can never be caught unprepared again. And so many Americans, when COVID hit, they had nothing in the house. Stores were shut down, and doctors' offices were shut down, and even if doctors prescribed drugs, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, pharmacists wouldn't fill the prescriptions. That was a nightmare.
Now the situation is much worse. We have these horrible supply chain problems. In our emergency medical kit at the Wellness Company, we have 8 prescription drugs that are all potentially life-saving.
Most people who died with COVID, they died in the hospital because they didn't receive early treatment.
Every American family should have one of these.
I can tell you the Wellness Company kit is the answer.
All right, we're going to play this interview by Marwan Abdullah from the Kateeb Party in Lebanon. I really hope you enjoy this. It's a good interview. We did it yesterday, late last night. So here we go. Well, here we go. It's Marwan Abdullah, correct?
Yes.
Okay. We are here with Marwan Abdullah. He's with the Kateeb Party, which is an older party in Lebanon. We've been talking a lot about the Middle East, and I wanted to get another perspective. So I asked him to join us, and he was kind enough to do so. So thanks for coming on, Marwan. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Todd.
So tell me about the Kateeb Party. I really, to have to be honest, I don't know a lot about it.
So the Kateeb Party is one of the oldest parties in Lebanon. It's a center-right conservative party established originally on Lebanese values, which are the values of a sovereign, independent, prosperous Lebanon that resembles the cultural image that we like to broadcast around the world, which is usually reflected with the role of the Lebanese community in every country that you find people of Lebanese origin. We are a country of 5 million people with around 10 million people of Lebanese origin around the world, which is by itself an important message. So the foundation of the party is to preserve the culture and the image and why Lebanon was established in the beginning as a country of freedom, as a country of minorities, as a country of refuge to all persecuted minorities in the Middle East throughout centuries. So this is the foundation of the party. Of course, we have the Christian democracy as a core value in the bylaws of the party, and we work for a best relation of Lebanon with all its traditional partners and traditional allies, and openness of the country to the international scene, to the West, and of course to any country that wants to partner with us. So this is the foundation of the party. To give you also a historical brief, we've been throughout the different historical moments of Lebanon. We've been the main party in fighting for the independence of the country in 1943. We were the main party to stop an Arab takeover of Lebanon in 1958 by Abdel Nasser and all the Arab authorities at the time. We were the resistance movement against the Palestinian Liberation Organization attempt to take over Lebanon, and the Syrian attempt to take over Lebanon. And recently, we've been, and we are still, a main force that is stopping Hezbollah from taking over Lebanon and trying to control the foreign policy and the domestic policy of Lebanon. So this is our continuous struggle to preserve the Lebanese identity and the Lebanese state and institutions as a platform that is open with all our partners around the world.
So that begs the question. So the Christian community and Maronite Christian, I believe this Kateeb is a Maronite party, correct?
Yes.
So the Christian community has shrunk from upwards of 70% down well below 40. And you know, you had the civil war, you had the Syrian occupation, and now you have 2 million Sunni in Lebanon, refugees from the Assad regime. Where does your community stand right now, and where do you see it going forward?
So when you want to look at the Christians of Lebanon, you have to have a different mindset than when looking at the Christians of the Middle East. Why is that? And we had a conversation about this. The Christians of Lebanon enjoyed throughout history freedom, political freedom, economic freedom, and freedom of opinion. While the other Christian communities in other countries other than Lebanon throughout the many centuries of history in the region didn't enjoy the same level of freedom and impact in the political system. This is why the importance of preserving the Christian political role in Lebanon is vital for the country, for the existence of something called Lebanon from one side, and also is vital for all the other Christian communities in the MENA region, because if you have a strong and vibrant Christian community and role in Lebanon, it reflects automatically on the others in the region. So going back to the numbers that you just mentioned, yes, we suffered a lot. We leave Lebanon because we want to find a better life. We want to live the way of life that we want to have for us and for our children. And we usually, if we don't find that in Lebanon, we immigrate elsewhere to find it. The first destination would be the West, because we integrate very easily, but also we travel to all sorts of countries where we can have economic opportunities to be able to live freely and with decency and give a better life to our children. This is the mindset of immigration. And all the scenarios that happened throughout the recent history in Lebanon, especially in the past 50 years, pushed us to immigrate because we didn't have the ability to live decently in Lebanon. But it doesn't mean that we fled a war or we fled a conflict, because the Christians of Lebanon remained free society for centuries because we fought for our freedom. And this is something that should be understood. We were never afraid of ISIS as a terrorist organization, but we were afraid of what the continuous conflict would create in our economic structure and not allow us to live in prosperity and to live a decent life. So this is the difference. It's not about fearing a terrorist organization or a fight, because we always fight and we usually win the fight because we are defending our homeland. But when you have an enemy that you don't see, which is economic crisis, financial crisis, and you cannot fight it in any way, then the choice would be for the youth of the Christian community is to immigrate and to find a better life abroad. And this is the situation that we're suffering from. And this is what we are trying to change with our partners in the West, to reverse, one, the immigration for people to come back to Lebanon and rebuild the community. And second, to protect what is remaining of the community, irrespective of the demographics and the numbers that you just mentioned.
So there was a color revolution apparently in 2019 approximately, which really damaged the financial situation in Lebanon. And how do you recover from that? The central bank has issues. What is your party's, I guess, theory on how to rectify that situation?
So the uprising that happened in 2019 was a result of different policies that led to the uprising. And don't forget that we had the uprising in 2019, we had COVID, the pandemic that destroyed what remained of our economy, and we had a big explosion in Port of Beirut, which is the biggest non-nuclear explosion that happened in history.
Do you think that was an accident or something
No,
else?
I don't believe in accidents of that scale.
Yeah.
An accident can be a truck going downhill, but not an explosion that is semi-nuclear. So no, definitely it's not, and we have our own story about it. So all these factors led to the worst economic and financial crisis in Lebanon, which again led to more immigration from all sorts or on all sides of the Lebanese community. How do we recover from that? First, you need to rebuild the state. Our state is malfunctioning because we have a structure that is demolished from within. We had a militia that is controlling the decision of war and peace called Hezbollah. And this militia dragged Lebanon into wars that we do not belong to these wars, whether the war in support of Iran, in support of Hamas, in support of the Houthis. Lebanon has nothing to do with all these wars and conflicts. We have enough problems of our own to deal with. So second is the militia, and to disarm the militia and take back the control of the monopoly of weapons for the state of Lebanon. Third is reopen Lebanon to the world by fixing our banking sector, which is corrupt, by fixing our financial institutions, the state financial institutions, and increasing the audit and the compliance of Lebanon with international regulations, not to allow money laundering and drug trafficking and all that. Three is to fix our economy by supporting the infrastructure that is demolished in Lebanon. Lebanon is a country, for the audience that doesn't know, we don't have 24/7 supply of electricity. We have electricity cuts during the day. I've noticed that, and this is
kind of get used to it. It just goes out for a while, then comes back.
Exactly. Okay, you have private generator, you have solar energy, but it's not sustainable not to have a fixed supply of electricity, which is the foundation of any economy. We don't have public transportation, which is again insane. You have a country of 5 million people in 10,000 square kilometers, which is a very small area and high density. We don't have public transportation. So imagine the time and the pollution and everything that you lose on the road. We don't have functioning technological facilities like fast internet, like all the entities that are needed for a functioning economy in 2025. And on top of that, so another problem as well is what you mentioned, Todd, is the presence of refugees, of hundreds of thousands of refugees in Lebanon. You mentioned the Syrian refugees, which now we have an opportunity with the new regime in Syria and the end of the civil war in Syria for them to go back to their homes and to their country and rebuild their country, which we will support and we will push them to go back to their country. And the second refugee type of refugees are the Palestinian refugees. The solution of which, and they are also in the hundreds of thousands, the solution of which should also include a state in Palestine, or a solution for the refugee problem of the Palestinians in the whole Middle East. And it's not up to Lebanon and the Lebanese to take all the burden, because we are a small country and we have enough problems. So fixing these small matters would help us recover from the destructive crisis that we have, and will allow us then to sit together as different minorities in Lebanon and think, what is the type of country and what is the type of government that we want to have in order to move forward and to build a country for the future, which is normal behavior of any country that is suffering from multiple crises every 10 years. And then we need to find a solution how to get out of this vicious cycle that we keep repeating every 10 years.
So you mentioned the Sunni refugees, and my understanding is that they're still being paid by international organizations to stay in Syria. Are you getting support from the Trump administration?
To stay in Lebanon, you mean?
I'm in Lebanon. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So that would be an easy fix, right? It's kind of like in the U.S. where they could self-deport if they stop getting paid. Are you getting support from, say, the Trump administration or anywhere else to enact that kind of change?
Okay, so we are doing a lot of lobbying, one, to change what you just mentioned, and it's being accepted by many international organizations and agencies, and many of them stop paying the Syrians for healthcare services, for aid, for student support, for tuition support, and they are telling them that you get that once you go to Syria, which is again our argument since day one. However, the overall strategy of the UN should be pushed politically by the member states that are putting the strategy. Unfortunately, until today, some countries, especially in Europe, are considering that it's not yet safe for the refugees to return to Syria. And when we ask them about what does safe mean, they say it does not mean only not having a conflict, but it means then them going back to their home country and being able to live a life that they deserve. We say, okay, but this becomes an economic problem. It's not a
That's
refugee
pretty open-ended.
issue.
I mean, you know.
Exactly. I have an economic issue in my country. I'm not doing very well financially. Does that mean I can take the plane and go to Switzerland and live there because I'm not feeling happy economically in my country? It's insane, the argument that these countries are giving. On the other hand, you mentioned the Trump administration. They have a clear policy for the US, and I think they believe about this policy in the rest of the world. However, in Lebanon, the focus of the administration is on disarmament and on fixing the financial loopholes that Lebanon has, which are allowing the financing of terrorist organizations and money laundering, which is, again, a bigger priority for the Trump administration than the issue of the refugees. However, we are seeing a change in the approach towards the refugees in Lebanon, which is, again, relieving for us as parties that we want to partner with people who are like-minded, like the people in the Trump administration, who understand the threat that this poses on the long term on Lebanon. But we needed to be more in the priority list of the foreign policy of the US towards Lebanon, which is something we are pushing for every day.
That's good. And if you hear something on that, please let me know, because I haven't heard a word from the Trump administration about the Christians in Lebanon. I've heard about Hezbollah. I've heard about Israel. I've heard Turkey. I've heard about Syria, al-Shiraz in the White House. But I haven't heard a word about the Maronite Christians, which I think they should talk about. They have the bully pulpit. They should say these people they're from here. They need to, if anyone needs to stay in the Middle East, it's the Christians.
Exactly.
But let's talk about Hezbollah. Is it realistic to disarm that organization?
It's not realistic. It's needed. You have an organ that's malfunctioning in your body, you fix it before you think of anything else. It's a major problem, and I'll tell you why. The majority of the military role and security role of Hezbollah that was played in the past 40 years was targeting the other Lebanese. It was not targeting Israel. They only had few battles with Israel, and they lost all of the battles that they did with Israel. So the main success and the main contribution of the military apparatus of Hezbollah was against the Lebanese and against the Lebanese state, against the Lebanese politicians. you had 19 assassination attempts between 2005 and 2013 for anti-Hezbollah politicians committed by Hezbollah and groups that are aligned with them, not according to me, according to the Special Tribunal for Lebanon, which is an international tribunal that found a pattern in all these assassinations, especially the assassination of former Prime Minister Rafiq Hariri, that led to Hezbollah being directly involved in that. So Hezbollah as a military organization fought and assassinated the Lebanese. They imposed their will in a non-democratic way on the rest of the Lebanese. They fought wars in the MENA region that brought problems to Lebanon. They made their own money laundering networks and drug trafficking networks that are actually fought by the Americans as well. In the US, you have something very famous called the Cassandra Project, which unfortunately was ended by the Obama administration. And the Cassandra Project mainly was a administration process within the U.S., the different departments in the U.S., to fight the illegal money laundering and financing of Hezbollah. But unfortunately, it was stopped and it allowed Hezbollah to regain money again. So we have already mechanisms to stop the funding, and we need to disarm them, because no state in the world can function when you have a heavily armed militia deciding the war and peace. Imagine that scenario in the US or in France, having a militia that would in France declare the second day war on Italy or on Spain. It's absurd. It's absurd. So we cannot accept that in Lebanon. The alternative would be build a strong state, build a strong army, and build a strong economy that would not push people to go to militias and to terrorist organizations, but to go and function properly like average citizens.
So what are the steps to build a strong army and a strong state, in your opinion?
One, you have to have rule of law. If you have monopoly of weapons, then you have rule of law. Then I will be under the law the same way that a minister would be under the law, the same way that a militant of Hezbollah would be under the law. We will be all equal. One. Second, you do the reforms necessary to fix the economy, because you need reforms and you need a functioning economy. And Lebanese economy is very small. It's very tiny. It's like 15 to 18 billion dollars, which is I think you can do that in one company in half a day in the US. So it's not something very hard to fix. You can fix it. And you have, as we mentioned in the beginning, we have a large Lebanese diaspora that is ready to come and invest back in their country as when they have a stable situation and a proper environment for businesses. When you have that, you have a strong economy. When you have a strong economy, you have good balance sheet and finances, and then you can train the army, equip the army, buy them modern weaponry, and then the army would be able to defend Lebanon whenever needed, whether against internal or external enemy. And second, be the safeguarding entity for all the minorities, because we shouldn't forget that Lebanon is a country of minorities. When Lebanon stops being a country of minorities that coexist and live together in a free environment, then why would we have a country called Lebanon? We can just annex it to any other country. So this is the main reason why Lebanon exists.
So, Tom Barak and the Trump administration seem to be getting very friendly with the Sunnis, with Turkey, with al-Sharaa, with the Gulf states. Are they going to allow that? Because you get the impression, and some were saying that Barak was saying, well, just give Lebanon to the Sunnis. I mean, what do you say to that?
So first of all, the Lebanese decide where Lebanon goes to, if it goes to the Sunni Syrians or not. This is one. Second, I believe, and you mentioned that if they are being friendly to the Turks, I believe every country has its security interests and the foreign policy priorities. And I understand now that not maybe, for sure, the foreign policy concern for the US is the security of Israel. And the security of Israel requires a regime in Syria that does not want to go into war with Israel and is ready to sign security cooperation with Israel, then they would be friendly with this regime. But this does not mean that being too friendly with the regime is giving them whatever regional expansionist mindset they have in the region. So this is one on Syria. Second, on the future of Lebanon and Lebanon, we have a huge Sunni community in Lebanon, and they are Lebanese and they are doing very well, very respected. But we need to build with them a system that is functioning for all the different minorities. And if that means that the Sunnis of Lebanon would use their relations with Syria and Turkey for the benefit of Lebanon, why not? Like me as a Christian in Lebanon, I would use my relation with the West and with Americans as the like-minded groups to help me, one, remain free in this part of the world. Second, to help me prosper in my country. So if everyone uses their regional relations and alliances for the benefit of the country, it would be the best case scenario. But when everyone is using that to get at the other communities, this is when we are destroying our country, and this is the cycle that we need to stop today. Are we afraid of dark scenarios? Of course. Does that mean that we should accept the presence of militias? Of course not. Does that mean that we stop working for building a proper functioning state? No, because we have to work for that every day. And trust me, I think the least worry for us would be anything to do with Sharia and his regime. We had stronger enemies and we defeated them. And if anybody wants to fight us again, we are ready to do the fight. But we don't want to fight anymore. We want to live peacefully in this piece of land and enjoy life like any normal country in the world.
Marwan, thank you for your time. Is there anything else you want to get out to the public?
Yeah, I want to say something. We are suffering a lot from the absence of values in politics. Unfortunately, in our current times, politics, especially in the West, especially in functioning democracies, are becoming about virtue signaling and just saying whatever people want to hear, and nobody is actually taking the tough decision and the strategic decision and the strategic policy for the future. This is harming us, this is harming the partnership, and this will allow of more division to happen. We need the public and we need the audience that is listening to us today to ask their representatives and their politicians, what are you doing for the values that we both believe in? What are you doing for the Christians of Lebanon? What are you doing for the Christian democratic values that we believe in? What are you doing for the security and the success and the prosperity of our country, of their country first, and for the partners that we are working with? Because if we keep doing politics just on tactical level without having a strategy based on values, then we are losing, you are losing, and we are both losing a partnership that can be beneficial on the long term. So we ask everyone, please go back to values in politics. Politics without values is irrelevant. It's just a show in the streets. We don't want a show in the streets. It's the future of people that we are talking about. It's human lives that we are talking about. We have to take it seriously, and we have to take it in a strategic perspective, not just on a day-to-day mindset and just what the quick win that I can do for the next news cycle. Let's think bigger and let's achieve together better outcomes.
Marwan Abdullah, thank you for your time. We'll have you back down the road.
Thank you so much, Todd.
Take care. U.S.
Well, in the case of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, these are two medications that have been FDA approved for use in humans for decades. They are very, very inexpensive. Interestingly, available over the counter in almost every other country other than the US and Canada. You can just walk into a pharmacy and buy them like we buy Tylenol in much of the world because they're that safe. And we've known for decades that ivermectin has very strong antiviral properties. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and both ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are what we call zinc ionophores. They help to move zinc from the bloodstream into the cell, which is where it needs to be in order to fight off a virus. So lots of application for these, and we have every reason to believe that those drugs also will likely have some efficacy against H5N1 or a number of other respiratory viruses that we may meet down the road.
If you haven't noticed, gold has reached a new high, all-time highs actually, and keeps going up every day. Why is that? It's because precious metals are a long-time historical store of value. And if you own a portfolio and you have assets in the fiat currencies, i.e. stocks, bonds, cash, or whatever, you're vulnerable to hyperinflation, which is coming as our debt explodes another trillion every 90 days. It's really scary. So how do you protect yourself? Go to Advisor Metals. If you look on any of our cdm.press sites, about halfway down, there's an ad for Advisor Metals. Click on it. fill out the form for your contact info, and Ira Bishotsky will contact you and talk to you. It's an easy conversation. There's no sales pitch. He's completely verified by us. He has a regulatory background we've checked into. We've checked with his bankers. We've checked with his IRA custodians for metals, and we can highly recommend Advisor Metals and IRA. So go to Advisor Metals. If you call them directly, tell them we sent you at CDM, and he'll definitely take care of you. But protect your portfolio because you really need to. It's coming. Thank you. Welcome back to the SCIF. I'm going to play you an interview we did with Rasmussen, Mark Mitchell, here shortly on the polling that he's doing on the Trump situation in the U.S. and with the younger voters. It's a really good interview. I hope you enjoy it. I just want to give a shout out to Advisor Metals. Go to cdmmetals.com if you got assets that need protection. The metals market may be where you need to put some assets. You can go to cdmmetals.com and they will come up a form and you can fill it out, and Advisor Metals will get in touch with you. So check out cdmmetals.com for our audio audience. We've had a lot of good luck with them. We've checked out their banking relationships. We've checked out their IRA custodians, where if you have assets in precious metals in your IRA, they custody it for you. You have your own metals at the custodian. And we've had fantastic results. They're not high-pressure salesmen. And we've also checked out his regulatory background. He's the only metals dealer regulated by the Commodities Futures and Trading Commission. So fantastic relationship we have with Advisor Metals. So if you need just a bunch of these to trade, these are silver rounds, or you need to place some assets in your retirement plan into metals, talk to Advisor Metals, cdmmetals.com. The metals market's on fire. It's probably not going to slow down for a while, years maybe, because we're entering in some very difficult times and people are going to want to protect their value. So I'm going to play a video with Mark Rasmussen from Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen. It's a great interview. Hope you enjoy it. We'll be back after this. We're back with Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen, friend of the show. Mark, thanks for joining us last minute. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great to be here. It's been a while.
It has been a while. So I wanted to get you on because you're putting out a lot. And by the way, your X account is on fire. I've noticed that. You must have it on, like you do it while you're sleeping or something. I don't know, but
it's attached to my hand day in and day out. And I take extra special asshole pills so that I can, that's my secret.
That works. So you mentioned before the show we were chatting that this has become a national issue. The local polls really don't matter, but give us your impression of what's happening nationally politically.
Yeah, I mean, this gets into some deep societal, psychological aspects, unfortunately, but we've talked about this before, how basically the impending fourth turning crisis is literally at our door right now, at the doorstep. And I think that if people aren't familiar with that term, we could go down the rabbit hole. But ultimately, if you look around you, I think everybody could maybe agree that society is fraying. There's increased divorce rates, drug usage, lack of integrity in every single institution and the way things are governed, full rent-seeking behavior in corporations, just complete double-fisted kleptocracy out of both sides of the government. And it's going to come to a screeching halt soon because we're running towards a cliff. I mean, we have a financial cliff. We have a geopolitical cliff. I think everybody is aware of this looming two-front war with China and Russia that NATO is just slobbering to get into. So that's a problem. And history tells us that these things pop up every 80 to 90 years. And what happens is there's a major crisis because institutions hit rock bottom. And then there's a bottom-up pull, like a societal pull towards a new set of values and new generation of leadership. And I think we are literally at the cusp, and you can witness it right now just by looking at what is going on with Israel. Now, do I think Israel is the most important topic? No, I don't. But it happens to be the one that I think is on the leading edge of this trend because it means so much to the Republican Party and because Israel, quite frankly, through really bad PR, has totally screwed itself. But what you can see is that there's a huge, huge age difference. Just one tracking question we asked, do you support Israel or Palestine more? Only 21% of voters under 30 support Israel. 59% of 65 and older support Israel. So it's this symbol of a complete break in values between these older people and the young new people who, quite frankly, have been given a very, 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 very raw deal by society, and they're upset about it. And so everybody looked at November 2024 and said, oh, the country's saved. Everybody's moving right. Everything's going to be Republican now. There's a preference cascade. And that's actually not what happened. What happened is the young people were kind of invigorated by the way that Trump spoke to them authentically and Kamala Harris didn't. And they liked this idea of ripping apart the government with Doge. And if you literally look at the search trend volume for the word Doge, it spikes the exact same week, literally the same week to the day that Donald Trump had a 60% approval rating with under 40 voters. His approval rating with under 40 voters is like 40% now. So he's lost 20% of them. 18 to 29s, he's lost like 35% of support just between then and now. And so those people are also independent people. They're younger people. They're minorities. They're people that pushed Trump into success, way more success in places like New Jersey. And those people didn't show up this week at all. In fact, in New York City, they voted for Mamdani. And so this is, I think, the wake-up call that the Republicans need, which is, and this is like the Republican Party, let's agree, is the face of boomer values, of corporatism, of establishment. They're literally probably the primary actors that messed society so much up for these people because they didn't stand up for traditional marriage. They didn't look into the mental health crisis. They offshored all these people's jobs. They're the ones buying the houses. They have like the home builder lobbies. Like it is really the Republican Party that screwed these people over, and they were given a chance. All they had to do was rapidly change the societal fabric. I know that's hard, but that's what the expectations are. And so now I'm afraid that they're going to go into the arms of people like Mamdani because the siren song of socialism is pretty great right now. And the Republican Party has absolutely no answer, period, whatsoever. They're ripping each other apart right now. They don't look like a unified force at all. It's like a complete and utter mess.
Well, let's look behind that. I've always thought that Trump made some kind of deal to get elected, and the deal had something to do with here's a lot of money, we'll get you in office, but you got to attack Iran or whatever has to be done for that agenda, the wars, whatever. But what is pushing the change in Trump once he got into office? What is doing that? Do you think?
Well, there's two separate things. There's Trump and the Republican Party. When I look at Trump, I say, well, he had a very unique thing that was very marketable. And what it was is like, hey, I'm a new person that's going to get in. I'm not tethered to the existing sort of like donor class. It was a new way for people with money to bet on an investment, which is I'll back this guy and he'll get into office. And maybe we don't even have to give him as much money because he doesn't suck as a candidate. And so now my interests are going to be represented. I hate to say it like that, but that's the reality. And so he's surrounded by wealthy people that help him get into office that want stuff. He openly talks about it. He talked about Miriam Adelson and how all she wants is stuff for Israel. And again, I'm not picking on Israel. Like he came out and said that.
Yeah.
And so I can only assume that every single business interest is like that. But I also think that probably more than other politicians, he has the ability to push back because he is who he is and he did what he did to the Republican Party. But I also think there's an aspect of just a bubble. I think there are people that know stuff, but I think that I've heard that InfoSec is pretty tight at the White House. And I can point to the Epstein thing, which I think lost him millions of independents, the way he handled that. And I was screaming. Everybody on the right told me to shut up, stop being a black pillar. And I was like, nope, this is the signal that you just gave independent voters that you're not serious about what you campaigned on. And they didn't fix it at all. And I don't know why they couldn't. But then you have the Republican Party, who, again, did very well in November of 2024, thought it was because of themselves. Turns out it was because people were giving Donald Trump a chance. And these people just are who we thought they were. They are bought and paid for by literally everything under the sun. They will make more money in the minority, and America will get screwed. They will probably shut down Twitter, impeach Donald Trump, pack the courts, use the nuclear option, and the Republicans like literally don't care. And they're doing nothing. Mike Johnson talked a really good game on November 12th about the MAGA mandate and how he was going to hang a MAGA banner in the halls of Congress, and they didn't. And like, obviously foreign interests are part of that, but I mean, it's the corporate interest as well. Have we seen any COVID accountability? We've seen literally no accountability. The only person, as far as I know, that actually has delivered for the American people is Representative James Comer, who gave his oversight committee gave that AutoPen report. Like, what else have we really seen? Like, you're not going to convince me that a Mike Bolton and James Comey indictment is anywhere near good enough. In fact, the fact that they exist is almost even worse, because it almost says, well, these people are trying, but the system's so broke that it can't be fixed. And we're getting to a place where people want the system torn down. I'm sorry. It's called burn it down politics. And that's where we're at.
Bill?
So that's a great pickup spot for me. So when you say burn the system down, let's talk about that for a minute. So we're talking about substantive change, right? And when you're looking at these young folks that you started your discussion with, what was the sense? They were in support of Doge, is that correct? They were in support of big change, I think, is what I heard from you.
Yeah, 18 to 39-year-olds voted over 20 points in favor of Hillary Clinton in my polling. And now, for them to have a 60% Trump approval rating, that is a massive, massive, massive reversal. And they lost it again. And it was when we were talking about auditing Fort Knox and ending the Fed. We're going to audit the Fed. We're going to audit the DOD. Everybody was talking about fraudulent payments within Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. Elon Musk was promising $1 trillion in deficit improvement. And then, what happened is, like, right after that, the Republican Party shoved him in a ditch because they wanted to pay themselves with pork with this reconciliation bill. They passed the clean CR. They said, I literally think this is how it happened. I think that everybody came in and was really surprised by what Elon was doing. And then they realized, well, this shock and awe is very useful to me. Like, we're getting away with a lot of stuff here. And they were. I think they could have ignored judges. I think they could have been like blowing up these drug boats. I think they could have been doing a lot more stuff back then. That was the time to really like raid the cities. And I understand that like ICE was limited and stuff like that. But there are no easy answers. There really aren't. We're in the field now with questions. And I'm going to see like what people's real feelings are towards the idea of like a Caesar, like an executive that can legislate. So we'll see. But again, I think what happened is it came time to, the debt ceiling was coming, and there was Chuck Schumer was talking about shutting down the government, and essentially they called his bluff. He had to cave, and they signed that clean CR. And I think what happened is Congress said to Donald Trump, listen, here's the deal. The only way you're going to get your laws done is if we do reconciliation. And oh, by the way, we have 4 years of things that have been piling up, all these favors we have to pay each other, all this pork, all the grease that, the gears of Washington, D.C. Are lubricated with. And Donald Trump had to say, do I threaten a government shutdown? Is that what I want in the beginning of my term? Or do I give these guys what they need and hopefully get a win out of it? And I think he decided that he wanted to win, and that was more important to him than Elon Musk, which is the best thing that he ever had. And so basically the right had their George Soros, and the Republican Party said, screw off. And then they got the one big beautiful bill, and it like didn't do anything. And why did it not do anything? Because it's a 3,000-page abortion. It's Washington, D.C. business as usual. And voters told us they wanted massive change. That means massive change in the way D.C. operates. And unfortunately, I think people, like especially the youth, kind of wanted a dictator.
Well, something like that. It's interesting. I was lucky enough to be in attendance at one of Trump's rallies just before the end of the campaign. It was held here at Georgia Tech's campus. And so I got the chance to talk to a lot of folks that were, a lot of, I won't call them kids. Some of them were, young adults that were really thinking about this. And I get the chance to interview a number of them. And I said, what is it? Why are you here? First of all, what is it you're looking for? And it was, the answers ran the gamut from, I can't buy a house now. I can hardly afford a car. Yep. Something's got to change. That man up on the stage says that he can make change happen. And to your point, it kind of doesn't matter what it takes to get that change to occur. And I heard this again and again and again from young ladies, from young gentlemen. These are students. These are folks going to school to try to make their life, I would assume, a good place. And they wanted what they were hearing from Trump's speech. Now, to your point, he started down these paths, but then got stymied, it seems, by a lot of people standing in his way. Some people would say Thune and others, and everybody coming up with issues about why we can't do that.
Yeah.
Is that Trump, or is that really the Republican Party? Because I noted there were a lot of posts in the last few days about what happened during the election. A lot of people are pointing the finger at the RNC saying, wait a minute, where were they in all this? What were they doing to try to make sure good things happen?
Well, the problem is it's the entire kleptocracy. It's Washington, D.C., which is occupied territory. Remember that back then people were also talking about like moving headquarters of agencies to different cities. I think that's a really great idea, because I think a Washington Republican is very, very different than a Republican everywhere else. And yeah, it's 100% about the economy. And we got polling back. I'm not fully done processing it, but we're going to have 3 out of 4 people under 40 say that housing prices are a crisis level. And also the NAR just reported that for the first time ever, first-time home buyer median age is over 40. So that's a real, like, that is, the Republicans are handing that as a gift to the Democrats for them to solve in a socialistic manner, and they will break the rules. And so Republicans have this opportunity to deliver for America. Maybe they have to break the rules too, but they're not doing it all. One way you could fix that overnight is literally just cancel all the visas, send everybody back home. Wages would spike, housing would crash, but it would solve the problem for the Zoomers. A lot of boomers would freak out, but they aren't the future anymore. I'm sorry. That's just the reality, and the handoff is happening right now. Look at Mamdani. I think it's DC, and I don't know how to fix that. And so what's probably going to happen is it's all just going to fall apart maybe. I don't know if we're going to get a revolution or something, or they're going to force us into a total war. But is the spending going to slow down? Like, no, like there's literally nothing legislatively that can happen, and everybody freaks out and clutches pearls about the nuclear option. They're talking about that a lot right now, and they're thinking about it entirely the wrong way. I quite frankly think Republicans want to lose. I think that that's helpful for them because they make money like selling their vote and stuff like that, and it really doesn't affect them. In fact, they get less flack because people expect them to lose. I know that sounds really cynical, but I think it's really 100% true, because they don't have this like centralized strategy and organization driving them like the Democrats do. And the Democrats, I think, are literally just getting whipped by some whip that we don't see on a daily basis. There's probably a complicated system of carrots and sticks, right? But on the right, it's like herding cats, and you hear Thune talk, and they don't even have anywhere close to the 51 votes. So it's not even like an ability to, like, they're literally not even on that playing field. And think of the optics of the Republican Party using this to deliver for 42 million people that had their SNAP shut off. And I think that they would be lauded as heroes. But what you hear everywhere is, oh, well, the Democrats are going to use it. Well, yeah, they are. They are going to use it. I think it's very clear that the votes that were holding it back are gone now. And apparently somebody told John Thune that, well, they don't really plan to use it. But it's like, okay, you're going to trust them, and the entire country is going to hinge on that. But if you use the nuclear option, the way to think about it is the Democrats can also use it too. That's one more reason for everybody to vote against them. And there's no easy answer, because I literally think we're like an AI job crash away from UBI. That's the other problem with the youth, is that they are in crisis. They demand action, but they don't care at all about values. Marriage hasn't worked out for them. Christianity hasn't really worked out for them. Again, mental health is off the charts. Society's failed them. They have no future in jobs. In fact, the Republican Party gave their jobs away to the rest of the world. The Republican Party was like the global welfare party. Like, that's really what it was. And I did a poll of 18 to 40 year olds, and even the Trump voters were really, really, really socialist. we asked a question: would you vote for a Democratic socialist? And the Trump voters under 40 were split in the 40s. And 3/4 of them support nationalizing major industries. Almost 60% of them supported excess wealth confiscation for first-time home buying programs. And so that they're going to come in and they're just going to promise these kids stuff. They're going to raid the Treasury. It's all going to be grift. They're going to take off the top. And the Republicans are probably going to support them. Like they'll make some like $3 trillion housing price rescue package, and they will basically sell it. They'll sell it out to all their friends, and the Republicans will compromise on it because of the home builder lobby. Like that's what's going to happen, and it'll be a mess. Like we'll have a $60 trillion total debt by the time the next presidency's over.
Well, that's coming for sure. Let's talk about the wars. You mentioned NATO slobbering for a war. I completely agree with you. I mean, it's every day. I mean, you know, France is talking about sending 2,000 troops to the front line right now, and
sure.
you know what's Trump going to do? Blah blah blah. You know, we've been advocating from the beginning. Just if you want to deal with the war and deal with America, just pull out of Ukraine. It's not our war. Bye. But that would help, right? In this, because what I see is everybody in the Trump administration for someone else has been pushing all these wars and pushing this international stuff when it's really, you know, Joe Bag of Donuts under 40 doesn't give a shit, right?
Yeah, it's like if it's not in the news, it doesn't matter. And if you withdrew, it would be out of the news. And it's like, okay, well, then maybe they would put, you know, children bleeding images of children on the news. But it's like, you know, the Christians are being killed in Nigeria, and Donald Trump comes out and says, "Oh, we're going to help them," and people are like, "Wait, what? Like what?"
Yeah, that's for something else. That's another agenda, in my opinion.
Yeah, like agenda or not, it's like people don't care. You know what I mean? It's like, and this is all with the subtext of rising threats of political violence in the U.S. The Charlie Kirk assassination freaked people out. We had 90% concerned about more political violence. And then, you know, the tracking question, I think I've said on this show before, how likely is it that there's going to be a civil war or revolution in the next few years? It got up to 43%. And, you know, that's no bueno. And so, like, it's the fourth turning. It's going to come crashing to an end. I don't really see an easy out here. I mean, it's going to be a bond vigilante or an economic hard landing or something.
Isn't that what the globalists want, though? They want to collapse everything, right? So that they can rebuild in their image.
Yeah, usher in a new world order and make us eat the bugs, 100%. And it all comes down to they weren't able to do enough aggressive action on the Second Amendment, probably. And I guess we'll see how states like Virginia, who now have like really large Democrat majorities in the state assembly, will do with that new power. But it's not, the Republicans are not winning, and people don't want that message. And they cling with white knuckles to a value system because of the fourth turning that worked out really well again for the boomer generation. And it's going to make the youth rebel. Just look at this whole thing, to bring it up again with Israel, is so retarded. So here's how I see it kind of playing out. First thing you got to understand is that J.D. Vance is like steps out of the book The Fourth Turning as like an avatar like archetype. He's the hero generation. He's a millennial. He is exactly the person who can come and think about things in a new light and sell people into a new value system. Well, what did he do? Like literally one day after the Nick Fuentes-Tucker Carlson fight, he went to Turning Point USA and just did 40 minutes of Q&A and presented a very different Republican Party. Probably had people in Washington, D.C. freaking out. And it was like, you know, straight up like decent answers, but the things in there that he said, really profound. Like, you're allowed to want to live by neighbors who share something in common with you. Like, yeah, we should stop legal immigration. We've had too much of it. Yeah, I'm trying to convert my wife into Christianity. Like, these are the kinds of things that I think had people freaking out. And if you look at his odds on the betting market for 2028, they've gone up even higher. He's by far beating everybody for the nomination. So now, if you look at what happened with Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson, I've been trying to look at this really objectively, and I get called an anti-Semite everywhere. Well, it's like, what does Nick Fuentes represent? He represents an anti-Semitic wing of the Republican Party that's always been there because they're young men in it, and young men are edgy. They have edgy behavior. We saw the whole young Republican chat. That's been like that for like over a decade. I've seen it on the internet. Like, I see the same things now that I saw 10 years ago. So this is like a thing that's been around, and all everybody ignores them because young men are screaming for attention. That's what this was. They're screaming for attention, and they've been ignored and stuffed into a box and trampled on. And so Nick Fuentes comes along and says, "Oh, I have a voice now. I can not be canceled." And all of a sudden, he becomes a standard bearer of a movement that traditional Republicans hate, but it's there and it's not going away. And it's like, okay, how many groypers are there? Maybe 50, maybe 100,000. But there's probably 3 to 5 million people that will watch his video and agree with 95% of what he says and then go on to watch somebody else. And so what do they see? They see this like neocon, boomercon, tradcon wing of the Republican Party have an absolute freak out over it. It's been 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
They helped mess up the election. They literally got this guy to the point where he has more views than Ben Shapiro. He is bigger than Ben Shapiro now. And it's because they wouldn't shut up about it. Mark Levin is embarrassing himself on Twitter. He's going to have a coronary, and he gets like 30x ratios on Twitter. They don't even know how the internet works. So they're literally acting like squares, and the youth are rebelling against them and saying, "Oh, look at this. We got a rise out of you. Israel, Israel, Israel." And they're not going to stop. They're going to use this and rub it in their face now. And it's going to, and I don't think Israel has any response to this. Their PR is absolutely horrible. The best thing they could have done, they're not only trying to cancel Tucker Carlson for the interview, they're trying to take down the head of the Heritage Foundation. And in my opinion, this is a tangential attack at J.D. Vance. So what I think they're trying to do is reestablish traditional Republicanism that, quite frankly, I don't think is going to get more than 55 million votes. So they're literally trying to lose on this issue specifically. And again, it's important to the boomers. And the youth are looking at it and saying, "No, just put me first. That's all." And they are unwilling and unable to do that.
Yeah, it's not hard. I got one more question, then I'll go to you, Bill. You mentioned Christianity hasn't worked out for them. Isn't there a big push in the younger generations for Christianity at this point?
There. How to specifically say that?
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of religious polling, and there's a lot to unpack here. What I can say is, for the first time, we had a poll just this week that came back with less than 60% Christian ID in America. So that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you ask these people, how religious are you? The people under 30 say, well, we're religious. It's like 35% very, another 30% somewhat. So they say they're at least somewhat religious.
Mm-hmm.
And they attend church, but less than the older generations. But they are the higher Catholic ID, but it's still like in the teens. And what they really are doing is just completely abandoning mainline Protestantism.
Totally.
So across the age spectrum, it's like 21% of 18 to 30 Christians, but only 59% of very close to the Israel number, believe it, like just reversed. So mainline Protestantism is dying out. And then the other thing that is happening, though, is that even though people say they're Christian, and we poll test things like John 3:16, 72% agree with it, 17% don't. Like, that's also encouraging. The problem is that the church is not really reflecting like worldviews in these people. So when we ask questions like, okay, on abortion, it's like you still see a lot of 18 to 30s that are like totally pro-abortion and fine voting for Kamala Harris, who's a partial abortion candidate, because they're able to compartmentalize these things. And that's really a problem. Like, evangelicals are night and day different than Protestants on where they believe on worldview issues. And then we have other questions where it's like, when you ask how important are traditional Western values, 18 to 30s care least of anybody. Would it be better for America if there were more traditional families? Only 40% of 18 to 30s agree with that. And then if you look on 18 to 30s, there's a significant portion of them, of the ones who are single, who are completely checked out of trying to find a mate, trying to marry. And especially the problem with the women. NBC did a really good poll where it's like the young men Trump voters, when asked how they define success, put kids and family very, very, very high on the list, like right along with breadwinning. The women under 30 who voted for Harris don't care about families or children at all.
Yeah, they don't.
So there's aspects of like feminism, liberal worldviews, openness to LGBTQ, and also the 18 to 30s are least religious of anybody, least affected by religion when it comes to their worldviews. And, we all know that there are high levels of mental health problems. They're, growing up in broken homes. They haven't really been taught Western values in school. And so this comes back to the fourth turning is I see all this top down like preaching, accept our values. Why weren't you taught history? Pull yourself up with your bootstraps. And none of that is going to work because these people just have a different value set. Like they weren't even taught how capitalism works and why it's great because they haven't even seen a capitalistic system. It's been like late stage capitalist corporate welfare.
Yeah, totally.
It's been that way since 2008, at least.
Bill?
So let's stay on that point for a minute. So if you look back at things like what kids have been taught and for how long that's gone on, is this the outcome that some group behind the scenes or some initiative behind the scenes has been working toward for maybe decades? Because I remember going to school and you would learn these things. You would learn and understand the nature of economy the way it should work and family values the way that they should be supported. And those were valued. People stuck with them. And then gradually it seems that you start looking at what the kids have been exposed to, and it goes back decades. This seems to be almost the culmination of what somebody's been pushing toward. Does that make sense?
Yes and no. And I agree that there is, let's just call it intelligent design. I think there is intelligent design behind the trends that we see, but the question is how much. And I'm a believer that very much necessity dictates like value set. And it's unfortunate. It shouldn't work that way, but it's what the historical patterns of the fourth turning tell us. It's like, okay, well, we can all see it coming if you have eyes. Even the church can. Well, the church is doing nothing. It's burning itself down over LGBT issues and progressive causes, right? And it's not really trying to like improve these people's lives. Like it should be out there like marrying people off as early as possible or whatever. It should be. Charlie Kirk was probably the biggest proponent of actual traditional marriage and the kind of values of Western values. He stood up for things like Christian morals in governance, and nobody does that. They get called Christian nationalists, right? So I think it's like the fourth turning tells us that a crisis is so bad that comes that everybody out of necessity has to have social cohesion and build a new value set. And that also historically tends to fuel things like Christian revivals. And so I think a revival's coming and everybody wants one, but it's like, okay, well, like some of the last big ones happened after stuff like the Civil War. You know what I mean? And then I think it's like, okay, well, if you can personally profit, then maybe you can convince yourself that you can be morally flexible in order to profit from that. And I think, again, and when I say boomers, I'm not specifically like lasering in on these people, but I'm just saying like there's a large group of people that inherited a land of milk and honey. And I think that those people, history tells us that archetypal generation takes advantage of it. And they strip mined it. They literally strip mined the American dream. They did it, they're out there like popping Viagras and living in the villages and having the Zoomers pay for their like prostate cancer treatment and retail trading and buying 3 Airbnbs when the Zoomers are never going to be able to afford a house. They're like all this dalliance with new ideas, like, all this individualism, like multiculturalism. Let's put that in schools. We don't need to teach people like, let's take the 10 commandments out because, it's a brave new world. Everything's great. And so I think that those kind of things drove really a lot of it. And it's like, okay, well, from point A to point B, where we're at now is like a lot of people who maybe understand the values or principles. But it's like if we had a high integrity, high trust society, I think we would have seen thousands of whistleblowers over the last 10 or 20 years. And I don't think we've really meaningfully seen any at all. So I guess we're going to have that revolution or civil war or World War III or whatever. I hate to be a doomer, but it's like tell me I'm wrong. You know what I mean? Like,
There does feel like a tone in the air that something's there, doesn't it? So looking back over the last few days, there's been a lot of chatter online and so forth about, we're still seeing these funny, I'll call them anomalies for the time being, things that suggest that there might be something other than a real vote going on. Have you been able to get a sense from your polls yet as to what people's feelings are there? Are they concerned? Are they still concerned? Is it growing? Is it shrinking? What do you think?
Let me try and pull up the last time we asked election integrity. So this was one of the big psyops that's ever been pulled on the American people, and it didn't work. It was the Streisand effect, because people had a lot of concerns about 2020, and they tried to tell everybody that, like, no, don't believe your lying eyes. There's nothing to see here. And it got up to the point, started, I think, like 48% of people who said it's at least somewhat likely the outcome of 2020 was affected by cheating, which makes sense because that's like the Trump voters. But then it got up to 66%. A lot of Democrats, a lot of independents were like, wait a minute. They kept seeing things, and a lot of memes. There was a lot of symbology. Now, we tried to unpack it, and I think that the cheating is widespread and multifaceted, multi-layered. There's a lot of like discrete types of cheating going on everywhere, I think. And we were able to kind of prove some of them with polling. We found that 1 out of 5 swing state voters said that they got at least one additional mail-in ballot. That's not good. And of the people who voted in the 2020 election by mail, we asked, well, here's a list of 4 potentially fraudulent things: filling a ballot in on somebody else's behalf, voting in another state you don't live in. 28% of all mail-in ballot voters in 2020 committed at least one form of fraud. So the election was completely corrupt, as we all know. And that's just with the mail-in ballots. Not only that, I had multiple polls where we asked people if they were a U.S. citizen, and people who said no said they voted in elections and that they voted in that election as well. So then you have the machine stuff. Then you have like the ballots being inserted, like all that. It's like, okay, where's the investigation? And I've heard that there's grand juries about these things, but it's like Act Blue is still out there laundering Chinese money, and the other.
So is Win Red, by the way.
Yeah, well, exactly. I just use Act Blue because they do it more, but I'm not like I'm an equal opportunity offender. Let me get it right. But this sale of dominion very specifically is one of the most peculiar things in the world, and the fact that we are now in a proxy war with China, kinetic action against Venezuela, the country that had an ownership stake in our election company that was just forced in a fire sale to change hands. And I don't know. We're back to where we were in 2017. Is there like white hats or black hats? And I really can't tell you, but I think I can see the political energy that caused the Democrats to outperform Republicans. But it seemed like a lot. And that's all I can really say, because they do it everywhere and they're really good at it. Yep. And,
it's obvious. It's obvious to me that Susie Wiles and other people around Trump are not working for America first. And I think you mentioned white hats or black hats. I think it's a gang warfare. It's gangs in New York that are fighting each other for the control of the most powerful country in the world. I mean, you look at what Candace and Tucker are putting out, and then you look at, the other side. I mean, it's fascinating to watch. I mean, somebody's feeding those people, right? They're not Candace isn't in her, in her bed in her pajamas, figuring all this stuff out. I mean, somebody's feeding it to her.
Yeah.
It is.
I really don't know.
Yeah.
It is fascinating, especially here in Georgia, because so much of what you just covered has taken roost right here in Georgia over a period of time.
You guys are still sitting on those 140,000 ballots or whatever, right?
Exactly. Matter of fact, it's funny you bring that up. And then we have people like Ed Martin, who's been assigned to seat and has seated a grand jury to investigate Fulton County finally. And then we see him doing these funny, I'm going to pull this up just to get an impression.
Yeah, this is like
he does this
stuff here.
Yeah, he does this stuff with like trolling Fulton County by posting a picture of Robert Fulton and then espousing how, he developed the ability to forget the winds. We're going to point the bow and go. And I'm thinking, wow, is this what it appears to be? Because it sure does feel pretty interesting, And
he
like
had that picture with Peter Tickton too, which is a big deal.
That's right.
And what I could say is that it's been explained to me that he's the assistant attorney general and that they've put him on pardons, whatever. his title is, that specifically he's been working on pardons. And that was the whitewash that was used to explain why he was interested in Tina Peters. But then I've also heard, well, he's got to be focused on other things as well, because a lot of, I've also heard people say it's like, oh, he's just kind of a goofball and he's like doing that. But it's like, you got to understand where the right is. And it wasn't the Trump administration, I don't think, but a lot of these people who put a lot of energy into the research here, like got put through a Q movement and the devolution movement and the whole like wait for Durham kind of thing. And there's just been a lot of like rug pulls, and it would be really irresponsible to put pictures of that out and then do a rug pull, like enraging people, making enemies, causing real problems. I hope, but we're still hoping here. We're still talking about 2 weeks. Like what's going on?
Yeah. Wow. You mentioned JD Vance. Tell me more there. What do you see? Because you've got both sides. You've got the Peter Thiel. You've got the Dark Enlightenment associations with him. What are people thinking of him specifically?
He's far and away the favorite for the GOP primary. And obviously things change, but the last time we polled it among Republicans, he was 53%. The next highest was Rubio at 11, followed by DeSantis at 10. And it looks pretty close to where the betting markets are. I bet you my poll is one of the things moving the betting markets. He's up to almost 60% now. To give you a frame of reference, back in April of 22, Donald Trump was only leading DeSantis among Republicans 48-24. So I think he's really the only guy they got. And if they try to run somebody else, like DeSantis will just get savage. The guy, in my opinion, just doesn't have whatever the je ne sais quoi is to look like a serious person. I'm sorry. I don't know if it's the heel lift boots or whatever, but DC really loves that guy. I hear DC Republicans talk about him like, oh, he's going to be more reasonable on immigration. Well, that means that, you know what I mean? Like that means they're going to be able to buy him off.
Totally.
And he took the Club for Growth money. And it's like, okay, Rubio's got some skeletons in his closet too. I think the way to look at Vance, and I came from the venture industry, people say he's owned by Thiel, and he was definitely a protege, but I think Thiel mentors a lot of people. And I look at his VC fund, and it's like, okay, he's got 2 other partners. There's only 3 people. It only took in $93 million in investor capital. Thiel probably put some money in there to help him out, but it's like in the grand scheme of things, like maybe a 20 million check or whatever to get your mentees fund off the ground isn't that big a deal. So I don't think it's this like kind of thing where Thiel can like assert that much influence, but I assume that JD Vance talks to him all the time and is probably like influenced by him. What I can tell you though is that ubiquitously the tech bros, and also JD Vance at the TPUSA event actually called out Palantir, I think too, that he didn't like the surveillance. And he also really came out, I mean, probably the most anti-legal immigration stance. So I think the idea of like scaling back H-1Bs, like he said, we need to assimilate more. Like he literally said, we need to pump the brakes and assimilate more in that speech. And if you're a tech bro, what do you want is you want endless H-1Bs. You want to, and he told me to my face that he knows that Elon isn't America first. And so I think that he's, again, influenced but not owned by, but every politician is influenced by some people. And quite frankly, if it's 3 years out and you're already far and away the favorite, that kind of changes, in my opinion, the donorship, equation, where it's like these people they're not trying to get a 10% person up to 100. They're trying to hitch their wagon to somebody that gets into office to buy influence. That's what the donor calculation will be. So that's going to happen. I guess it's inescapable. But he pretty authentically, when you hear him talk, like he believes the things he says. He is an economic populist, and that alone is enough for them to try and take him out, to be honest with you.
Trump has the aura of being able to get things done. Everybody's saying, well, Trump wasn't on the ballot. So, I mean, people, at least in the beginning and up and through the election, thought Trump would actually do something, that he said he was going to do. And he has a lot of it. A lot of it he hasn't. But does JD have that I'm going to get it done? I mean, in your opinion, what do people think? That's the question, I guess.
I spent an hour talking with him. With Trump, I think that he's good at branding, and I think he's done a lot I think a lot more of it was Doge. I wish he hadn't gotten rid of them, and I wish that they were more back in the picture. But my feedback for Trump would be about messaging and chaos, like staying on target, and not necessarily that he's not doing anything. The feedback is entirely 100% to the Republican Party, which you brought up the RNC bill. It's more than the RNC. We're talking about the NRSC, the donor class, the RGA, the state and local parties. Like all of these people, there are good people, sure. But generally these people, and I hear this from everybody, they don't want to run on MAGA because it's risky, even though the voters in their state want MAGA Republicans over traditional Republicans. They'll run from any principled stance, and they're basically going to make a decision based on how much manna from heaven that they can recycle back into the consulting gigs. Like that's really what it is. And so if that's going to be fixed, I think it needs to happen with another organization that can centralize the conservative movement around America First, because Trump's going to lose political capital soon. So I look at Vance, and I think he's courageous. You know, Trump is too. But I think he'll come at it, hopefully, with a more organizational design approach. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Trump came in and he did not, it's been 10 years. He did not fix the RNC. He didn't fix the NRCC. He didn't.
Why is that? Is it just due to pressure? Is it, why is that? That's the big question. Do you have any insight into that?
Yeah, I guess you pick your battles. I mean, it would take scorched earth, boil the ocean kind of like, you know, it was what, 6 or 7 years till Ronna McDaniel was out, you know, Kevin McCarthy was still calling the shots in Congress. Right. He let Paul Ryan like not repeal Obamacare, even though it was like a big, you know, Trump promise. It's like, I think he gets it. He was ill prepared for the first presidency, 100%. And he was surrounded by scumbags. And it's like, okay, maybe he couldn't predict that DC was going to be full of scumbags, even on his own side. I really think that's what happened. But it's like, there's no excuse this time. And, you know, it's like, okay, he got some good cabinet people in, but I don't really know how good like the tier 2 and tier 3 people are. And I don't know if he filled like all of these roles that Joe Biden did, like the tens of thousands of people that could be in positions of leadership. It's probably just these people that recycle through every Republican Party still. You know, I presume that's the case. The part that this is anecdotal, but we met at CPAC, right? Bill met you there. I've been to 2 CPACs, and the part that concerns me is that the first one was 2023, and that was off the back of a pretty bad Republican underperformance in 22. Donald Trump's approval rating was at its lowest as well. He was like launching crypto coins instead of like talking about America. And that was a packed CPAC, and the general exhibition floor was full to the brim of think tanks, you know, the Heritage Foundation, Log Cabin Republicans, John Birch Society, like all these organizations. The 25 CPAC was, in my opinion, more poorly attended, and maybe that's because of Matt Schlapp, I don't know. But what was in the general exhibition floor was like Trump cigars, Trump wood signs, Patriot Mobile. It was all products. It was all Trump products.
Yeah.
And so this idea that like somehow the Republican Party has been changed by Trump, it hasn't. Washington, D.C. Republicans are the same people. And they literally are incapable of making the changes they need in order to convince the Zoomers to vote for them. We know this. Like the second the One Big Beautiful Bill was signed, they went and we're having backdoor amnesty talks.
Yeah. It's so what, in your view, I know you're not a consultant, but what is the answer if the Republican Party, I mean, based on your polling, what would change the equation?
I'm about to do a stream just on this, so I have my notes typed up. But here's what I think is the only path forward for Republicans. They need to immediately have an offsite, a powwow, and come up with a new contract for America that is focused entirely 100% on economic populism and accountability, institutional accountability. And they need to lay out 20 concrete things legislatively that they will reorganize the economic order with. And they have to deliver on at least 5 of them by next year. They got 1 year to do it. And we all know these people are going to be campaigning come like February. So the window is closing. They need to codify all Trump executive orders. and they need to use whatever tactics necessary or possible to get the votes. And if that means like indicting people, I don't know what to tell you, but they have to do it. And it's like, oh, well, the judge is going to throw it out. They got to build a bigger case. That's fine. At least you get the evidence out. Like, I don't know what to tell you. They need at least $500 million to go into building a new vetting strategy and get out the vote infrastructure, something that is not run by the same consulting class scumbags that are going to, like, you know, pump money into huge direct mailing operations that don't have any. And it's got to be run by somebody that's a real CEO, not a political guy. And it needs to be like, I'll do research for that organization. I don't care. Like, they have to do more messaging than just Fox News. They have to be everywhere on the internet. They ran a campaign like that, and then they just poof disappeared. And they need to ditch donor interest and make this all very clearly economic populism. They have to be a clear, pragmatic contrast to leftist redistributionism. And they haven't even, like, they have so many tools in their toolbox, like antitrust. Like, nobody's talked about that. Everybody hates big corporations. Like, punch them in the face. And they're not going to, because they're bought and paid for. But this is the path, and it's not that hard. Like, it's really not that hard. Like, you really can't get Murkowski to vote for the nuclear option. Like, is it? Oh, we don't have the votes. Well, like, you know, launch an ethics investigation into it. I don't know, man. Like, something. But they're not going to. And so we're going to be socialists. I hate to be a doomer, but
what do you are people aware of? You know, in Georgia specifically, and in Florida and elsewhere that were involved, the GOP is completely corrupt. They're just all about keeping power and don't give a damn about the grassroots. In fact, in Florida, they've canceled, I think, 4 or 5 heads of the Republican executive committees in the county because they're MAGA. They literally come, well, your 2 devices, you're gone. You know, they pull them from after they've been elected. So the GOP is hostile to the grassroots. Do you see that? Are people aware of that?
I try to get it matches every story I've heard. And like, I can give you a litmus test to use. Republicans overwhelmingly believe in paper ballots and voter ID, and not a single red state has allowed that to happen. And it's probably because they make money on these big machine contracts,
and stay in office.
That's one of the things they could do, is that it's like, okay, New York City, is that how you're going to play it? Well, we will present a contrast in our red state. Oh, we can't get it done in the federal level. We'll do it here. And they started to do that. Like, for instance, states were starting to remove soda from SNAP, and a whole bunch of Republican lobbyists and Republican fake pollsters banded together to go to bat for the American Beverage Association and shut those bills down. So it's like, I don't know. It's going to be like torches and pitchforks. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe we'll be in the same platoon.
Well, hopefully. Great minds think alike. Anything else, Bill?
I wanted to give Mark, you and Rasmussen have done what I think is an astoundingly good job keeping Georgia's dynamics in the public eye. So thanks for that. Are there specific places that people can go to make sure they're following the right spots for you?
Yeah, Rasmussen_poll on Twitter and at YouTube. We put out a couple videos in the stream like once a week, and I'm at Honest Pollster. So this is where I do more of my hot takes, and the other one's more like our articles and election integrity stuff.
All right. And then, of course, you have the website as well, right?
Yep, RasmussenReports.com. The Republican and Democrat parties are not supporting us, so please buy a reader subscription. It's like nobody even, most accurate pollster last fall, and not one single person paid me to poll Virginia and New Jersey, and it's because they can't control the outcome. So it's like,
or maybe don't want they know the outcome and don't want you to get it out to folks.
True. Yeah, wow. Somebody I know runs a PAC that paid a pollster $28,000 to do a poll for New Jersey, and they came back with like a Chitterelli tie. I had Chitterelli underwater 6 points, and that was back like before the government shutdown even started, and they paid like 4 times more than what I would have charged them, but they got the result they wanted. It wasn't right, but
excellent. Mark, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it.
Anytime. Great to be here.
All right. Take care. Hope you enjoyed that great interview with Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen. Great guy and friend of the show, and we really appreciate his time. Couple notes before we go. This is my book, Currency. It's been re-released by History of Books. If you love a good thriller, a financial thriller, history, geopolitics, historical fiction, finance, this is it. If somebody loves that kind of book, get it for them for Christmas. Currency by L. Todd Wood. You can buy it anywhere, and it's the first in the Connor Murray series. And also, our book list, let me bring this up on the Manhattan.press. 1 second. There we go. If you go to the Manhattan.press and go to the top menu, it is our bestsellers list, the Manhattan bestsellers list. And we're talking, here's the editor's picks, but we're talking adult nonfiction, adult fiction, politics, history, young adult fiction and nonfiction, children's fiction and nonfiction. So even just the best-selling books, guys. It doesn't matter. There's no bias at all. I mean, look, you've got Bill O'Reilly and Howard Zinn on the same page. So you've got, a book on Kennedy, tyranny, and how to stand up to a dictator. It's just the best-selling books, what America's reading. So go to the Manhattan.press. You can find everything there. And if you want to buy a book, you hit checkout under the book, and you can buy it from the CDM bookstore. And also at the top there, you can search the CDM bookstore for any book that you need for school, for a business, for a trip, for just to read by the fire this winter. So please check it out, and please buy your books from us instead of from the Matrix where they want to kill you. So really appreciate your viewing today. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Got a interesting guest on AI and maybe something else tomorrow. We'll let you know. It's always fluid, and we don't really know until the show rolls. So we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us today on the SCIF.